I'm going to be honest. It's been the off season for the Jets for like over a month now. But now it's officially the off season for all 32 NFL teams, with the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl last night against the San Francisco 49ers. First team to win back-to-back, all that jazz. And so the only perfect way to kick off a proper offseason is with a 7-round live mock draft post-Super Bowl edition with one of the best draft insiders in the game. Let's do this thing, baby. Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans. Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show. Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby. For me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Good morning, everybody. Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcast. Let's bring on the man, the myth, the legend, the architect of Project Prospect. He is our resident draft guru, and we go live on the scene to Tom C. How are we, Tom?
Hey, Paul. Good morning. Good morning, my friends. I'm a little tired, not going to lie, that the Super Bowl went later than I expected. A little past my bedtime, but good game nonetheless. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes, I wanted to, as a relatively speaking, no skin in the game, unbiased guy, I just wanted a good game, and we obviously certainly got that. Plus, I think it was one of our Jets brethren tweeted out, NYJ Mike or Matt, said no ref interference, said the game was called pretty straight. There's only one or two calls where it's kind of like, but no, that was obviously the Super Bowl Chiefs Eagles was the controversy at the end. Was it a foul? Was it not a foul? We didn't have any of that jazz. So shout out to the Zebras. Way to call it straight, pal.
Yeah,
way to call it straight.
And just a little extra fine salt in the wound with the Mecole Hardman
of course
clincher right there. We couldn't get a national production or show out without somebody mentioning the Jets.
Yeah. Here's this. What was we ended up putting a piece out last night because there was enough of it. Travis Kelce, in his post-game remarks, let me make sure I read this correctly. The Jets counted him out. Kelce said about their Chiefs teammate and Super Bowl winner Mecole Hardman. Yeah, of course, obviously, yes, right. That had to happen.
Good for him, man.
Where the Jets paid most of his salary to catch the game win. People were selectively wording it out, saying, what if I told you Mecole Hardman caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, and Jet fans like, yeah, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, son of a. Yeah, so here we are. That's all right. You're right that it was impossible for that I should have bet on that. I would have made a lot of money and retired last night. I should have foresaw that happening. I absolutely should have.
You can't retire. What are we going to do at 7:30 in the morning? 7 days
That's
a week.
That's a good point. So you know what? Screw Mecole Hardman and screw the money I could have won, the life-altering money we could have won. So let's get into this, people. I tried out so we're going to do this live mock draft with Dom C. I love this process. We have not done this yet with Dom C, but we'll try to do it at some mile markers. So today, again, is the official kickoff of the offseason for the rest of the universe. The Jets have had that experience for quite a while. Free agency, I think, will be another big pivot point. We'll kind of see where the cards lay at that point. We could do another one, and then, of course, draft week or something, or early in April. We'll figure it out. So here it is. I tested out a lot of systems, and I want to make this as accurate as possible. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through every scenario, talk through the best available players, and Dom C will share his juicy, handsome insights at each selection and what we should probably be thinking of. So without further ado, let's throw it up on the big board. And, me and Dom agreed on the simulator of choice will be Pro Football Focus, old PFF. I've done a lot of testing last night, and this ended up being the best one. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to pick the New York Jets. Click. We're going to go with a 7-round mock. The speed will be fast, so we won't see a pick-by-pick breakdown, but we can always look at that sort of thing. Randomness all the way down, boop, because I saw some crazy-ass stuff happening.
I would do one more thing also. That
yes,
care for position needs. Make that match the second one.
Okay.
There
we go.
Bada bing, yes.
And is that good?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay,
beautiful. So we will now enter the draft. I know for our our audio only listeners, you won't see this, so we'll try to be as descript as possible so you guys get all the juicy deets. So 7 rounds, as fast as possible. No randomness, because again, that just, like for instance, last night, Brock Bowers went number 1 overall in a different mock draft simulator. That's not realistic. So we want to make it as realistic as possible. So without further ado, we will click enter draft. Here we go. And then I will hit start draft. Okay, so let me just say, oh, wow, interesting. So we had all the normal stuff, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, very interesting. I've heard from Dane Brugler, he said he does not believe there's a massive gap between Harrison and Neighbors, and then you have a Dunze, that wide receiver run, I've heard a lot of people say. Giant Steele, Jade Daniels at 6, Joe Alt at 7, of course. Cooper DeJean, and then Brock Bowers 9, which takes us to 10. And, with all the mock drafting scenarios I've been seeing from all the experts, Top Shays and everybody else, it keeps seeing Olu Fashanu available. And I want to turn this question to you first to start this off.
Okay.
And it was a question that our good buddy Connor Rogers and Trevor Sikkema explored during their Pro Football Focus show at the Super Bowl, rather. And they discussed what is wrong with Olu Fashanu. They openly were asking and debating about it because he's been starting to slip in mock drafts. I'm going to be honest, 99% of them I see, Olu Fashanu is on the board for the Jets. It's very rare that he's not, and once again, he's available here. I turn that question to you. What's wrong with him? Daniel Jeremiah, when he dropped his first ever mock draft, had little blurbs under each player. He said teams are split on Olu. He said that back a bunch of weeks ago, and it seems like we're getting that kind of narrative here. Why are teams split on Olu Fashanu, Dom C?
Well, first off, I want to say this before I go into Olu. This is the perfect time of the year where, right after the season starts, just say from December until like right now, people get prospect fatigue, right? So, they get tired. You hear one thing and then it kind of develops into you get tired of talking about the same guys. So
paralysis by analysis.
Exactly. Yeah. Subconsciously, we try to pick little holes out of everyone. So I think there's a little bit of prospect fatigue right now with Olu Fashanu. Listen, I said I'm not tooting my own horn here, Paul, so please don't take it like that. But I said back in November, in November, before the draft season for most people really kicked off, that I thought that, there was a distinct possibility that Olu Fashanu could fall a little bit. Now, I still have him as my second ranked offensive tackle in the class. I think two things. One, I think the gap between Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu has lengthened. I think people are kind of settling in on Joe Alt. Olu Fashanu is still a phenomenal prospect, but he's not perfect. All right. He's young. He's still developing. Okay. He does not have in my opinion only, he doesn't have the necessary functional strength to think. He still does not play. He still needs play strength. That's just gonna come with time. Getting in the NFL and weight room, so on and so forth. He is not near the level of have the level of ferocity or finesse or just sheer force in power in the run game that some of the others at the top of this class do. Alt, Latham, Fuaga, Mims, Patrick Paul, they all are extremely efficient and sufficient run blockers. The thing with Olu is he's known as a almost perfect in the pass rush. Now, I personally think he could still use a little bit of technique with his hands. He's not the cleanest at times, a lot of double punches, and in the offensive lineman game, You see defensive linemen rushing all the time, Paul. If I come at you with both my hands here and I get one swipe, you lose that. You win the hands. You win the rep. So there's a lot of technical things with his hand placement, especially with that inside. He gets beat on the inside a little bit, a little soft, a little passive on that inside. I think there's some technical things that can stick around, but he checks all the measurables. Got the length, got the footwork, got the speed. He's athletic. I liken him too. Do you remember a couple years back when Ole Miss prospect Charles Cross was coming out?
Of course.
Everyone said great in the pass game. He could be a NFL caliber pass protector, but don't know if he's got what it takes to do it in the run. I liken Olu Fashanu a lot to that kind of.
And he went 9th overall to the Seahawks. The Jets got Garrett Wilson with the next pick.
And the Jets picked 10th overall here. So, listen, I think by the time when it's said and done, would it surprise me that Olu Fashanu was on the board at 10? It wouldn't, but I don't think it's necessarily a fact that Olu Fashanu has all of a sudden forgot how to play football. Or that he's all of a sudden bad. I just think it probably has to do with more of the stock of some of the other guys just kind of rising. So I'll say this, like I said, I have Olu Fashanu in the same tier of players as Talisa Fuunga and JC Latham. They're my second tier. If I had to choose, for the Jets, I would choose Olu Fashanu because I think he's the one out of the three that can come in and play left tackle right away.
Okay, before we move on, again, these guys aren't available that I'm about to say, but I found it fascinating that Dane Brugler said it, so I want to bring it to you. He told Ethan Greenberg. Ethan Greenberg's like, okay, gun to your head. This is back at the Senior Bowl, but the footage was released this week. He said, gun to your head, Jets have to make a pick right now. You're the GM. Who's the pick? And he kind of walked through it. And he said, if one of the top 3 receivers on the board, he said, I don't think they're going to be. And obviously those 3 are the 3 that went in a row. It is Marvin Harrison Jr., it is Rome Odunze, and it is Malik Neighbors. He said, that's the direction I would go. This is Dane Brugler speaking at 10. But he said, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think any of them are going to be on the board anyway. But if they were, that's where I go. And then he said, offensive line of priority, things that nature. And here's the realistic thing of what I believe is going to be on the board. Do you agree with that assessment with how special those 3 receivers are if one of them were somehow on the board? Because craziness, of course, can always happen in the NFL draft.
I think all 3 are fabulous players.
Okay.
I think that I would choose the likes of this, what is my second tier of tackles, the Fashanus or the Lathams or Fuagas, over Rome Odunze. If Neighbors was on the board, I'd take Neighbors. If Harrison was on the board, I would take Harrison. Okay.
Interesting. All right. So Fashanu's the pick here.
Fashanu would be in this situation. I lean tackles. The Neighbors and Harrison are born, and just Neighbors, guys. And then we'll move on because I don't want to. I know we're up against time. He's the only guy other than Marvin Harrison I would trade up for in this draft. I know the Jets aren't trading up. We don't have the capital. He's worth that discussion to trade up. He's going to be a special player in the NFL. Very, very similar to me. I see a lot of Garrett Wilson in him. And imagine having 2 Garrett Wilsons on the field, Paul.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. Can I, real quick, Dom?
Sure.
I hate when I hear people say, because sure, in an ideal world, you want a basketball team. You want a short guy, you want a big guy, you want a shifty guy. I get it. I understand. But when they said, it'd be a little too similar to Garrett Wilson. Give me 30 Garrett Wilsons, please.
Give me anybody that can separate like that. Give them all to me. I don't care. 5'4", bring them on. Bring them on.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll have a 5'4" basketball team. Okay, they're if they're all Garrett Wilsons, okay, right. I think I'll try to figure it out. So putting that one aside real quick, and then one last quickie here.
Go ahead.
Trade down opportunities. I see a lot of fans talking about that live. If Olu's on the board, do you consider, like, again, so you said Fuaga, Olu, JC Latham, who, by the way, the Lance Zierlein mock draft, that's the first one I've seen in this current cycle where the Jets took JC Latham with the 10th overall pick. You also consider him in the same class. Since all those guys are on the board, the only one that's gone is Joel. Would you consider a trade down scenario?
Depending, but it really depends on how far down, because there's a tight knit, cluster of teams, Oakland, or not Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're at whatever 12 or 13.
Yes,
Saints,
13. Yep.
Saints at 14. There's a couple teams that Jacksonville at 17. There's a couple teams there that really could lean towards the offensive line. Cincinnati at 18 is another one. So I don't know if I drop down too far and risk going out of the risk going out of the range of those guys. So if you told me, Denver wants to come up because they really like Bo Nix. All right, I'll drop down to 12, And that's probably about as far as I'm comfortable going without knowing I'm going to lose one of those guys.
Okay. Again, I like the thought process there. Again, the Jets do not have a second-round pick, obviously, for the Aaron Rodgers trade, but maybe some sort of moves and grooves can happen. So we get offensive tackle, plug and play. We got a left tackle. Again, this is pre-free agency, so we don't know. Does ABT kick out the right tackle now that we figure out inside? That stuff is still unclear. What's the position you're looking at here where the Jets, again, there's a massive gap because they don't have a second-round pick. The next time they pick is 72 overall in the third round. What position are we looking at?
Well, I think, listen, in a situation like this where it's stick and pick, we're not moving up, down in the draft, and we don't know what happened in free agency. I think you have to lean wide receiver. I did something a little different on my channel in my Jets 7-round mock, but the situation was different. So in this position, and if you can scroll down those wide receivers just to show you got what is necessarily your third, fourth tier receivers here, which is fine. You got some good players here. Based on my board, you can roll back up.
Okay.
All the way to the top if you can. So the decision for me would probably come between three guys, and it's those three guys right at the top. Brandon Rice, Jalen McMillan, and Jamari Thrash. So Jamari Thrash is probably your more of your vertical threat, more of your speedster. Probably a guy, he can bounce a little bit between slot and outside, but he's probably going to be more of a, like a speedy vertical threat. I love the way he runs his routes and gets out of breaks, and he's a guy who just scores. Like for some reason the ball always finds him. Now, had a little bit of problem with the dropsies last year. I think 11.5% last year was a little bit of an anomaly. He's a guy that I happen to like. Does he get some? So you're saying he has like some Mecole Hardman to him? Is that? Listen, I'm a little Mecole Hardman. Salt in the wound. A little. What is that boy? Why can't I think of his name? Who did the Giants? Jalen Hyatt. A little Jalen Hyatt in his game.
Tennessee.
A little Jalen Hyatt in his game. Very fast, can get out there,
Okay.
I'd probably still lead Brandon Rice here. Listen, Brandon Rice, I think, is probably the most well-rounded receiver out of these three. I mean, I really like Jalen McMillan. Again, that's a slot-only guy. Brandon Rice gives you a little bit more flexibility. He can play on the outside. He can play the boundary. He's big enough to play the boundary. He's quick enough, although he's not as quick as the other two. He's quick enough, in and out of his breaks and with the sinking the hips and his route running that he can move, as your Z receiver as well. 4.3 contested catch. I mean, I'm sorry, 4.3 dropped catch rate,
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And over a 57% contested catch win rate last year. So, not going to be the guy who beats you with straight line speed, Brandon Rice. But I think a guy who's nuanced enough, good frame, knows how to use his hands, has the good football IQ, good bloodlines that,
I was just about to say, isn't this Jerry Rice's son?
It is. I'd bring him in and play him opposite Garrett Wilson. And, I think you'd be in good shape.
Hey, does Altoon have any sons in this draft? I'm just trying to make sure we got that in. Okay, great.
You might be able to make a team of all juniors in this class. You know that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the legacy. Again, it makes me feel incredibly old, but I do love the legacy things. That's so cool. And I'll be honest, you mentioned it a little bit there. Mentally that this guy's ready. Jerry Rice is catching bricks, man. To have the greatest receiver of all time as your dad. Imagine the growing up, and then he wants to take over the family business. From a mental standpoint, I say the same thing about Marvin Harrison Jr. all the time. That just the intricacies that he got from a Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver father. that makes them so smooth throughout the entire process. Because when they get to college, they know things that no one else knows or may never know. So that's really cool. So yes, let's go Rice. I love it, baby. Booyah. Okay, now we're jumping again. That was just pick 72. We've filled offensive line and wide receiver. Now we're at pick 111. We're here in the fourth round for the New York Jets. Okay, so we filled arguably the two biggest needs that people talk about outside of backup quarterback. I know that was a topic of conversation yesterday, but so they filled those two big holes. Now where? What's the position here, Dom C?
So I think interior offensive line would make sense. However, I think it's one of the more deeper. So I'm not gonna jump here.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna go a little way. I'm gonna push a little into an area where I don't think a lot of the Jets fans are gonna be happy or gonna like. Listen, we got some holes on the defense. Now we're out of the premium picks. We're into the fourth round where we have two of them.
Day 3. Yep.
Yeah. We're in day 3. So I think defensive line and I think cornerback, defensive back makes sense. After this year, again, we don't know what's happening with DJ Reed. We don't know what's happening with Michael Carter. The second, we don't know what's happening with Brandon Eccles. Hopefully they're all back, but we don't know what that's the case. Bryce Hall, he's a goner more than likely.
Yeah, he's a free agent. That's correct. Yes.
And that's just the cornerback room. Now, Ashton Davis is a free agent. Jordan Davis is probably
Jordan Whitehead.
Jordan Whitehead, Jordan Davis. Jordan Whitehead's probably not going to be brought
Chuck
back.
Clark is a free agent.
Clark is a free agent. So the defensive backfield and the interior defensive line are needs. And this is where I'd probably address both of those picks with these next two. So feel free. You can go to one or the other, and we'll see what's available.
Okay. We'll start off at safety. Here are some of the guys available here.
Yeah.
You tell me if
the two that stick out to me. I really love Jaden Hicks's game. I mean he's your big brute box safety. I also think Malik Mustafa would be a great fit. He flies all over the field. He's a box safety. He's a strong safety as well, but he's got a little bit more versatility than Hicks. I think Hicks is. Again, I'm not comping him to the player, but think of the mold of a guy like Jamal Adams, who is going to come up. He's going to be a force at the line. He can blitz, inside and outside, short tackler, big hitter. And then you think Mustafa, who's also all that, but he's got a little bit more fluidity in his hips. He's got a little bit more ball skills. He can play a little bit of split safety concepts with you, so on and so forth. So those are two guys that I'm thinking. On the interior of the line, I mean, I see Michael Hall right there. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't think he'll be there in the real draft. He's a second round pick.
So I appreciate that, Dom, because again, I don't want this again. At the end of the day, this is a simulation, so things can happen. Right? I won't Williams in the third round. Yeah, I think that'd be a great pick.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I would pick Michael Hall. I'd skip that up to the podium, but I'm not going to because he's not going to be here.
Jordan Jefferson, he's the one who was at the Senior Bowl and ripped someone's helmet off, right?
Yes, he did. He ripped off Christian Haynes' helmet and was told that he needed to go to church. He's a big guy. Tyler Davis is another guy. I don't know if I'd make the pick here, but Tyler Davis is what I think would be a perfect opposite Quentin Williams because he's that big, run stuffing, big, good anchor, holds his ground, can take on the double team kind of complement, kind of Robin to the Quentin Williams Batman. So on early downs, I think Tyler Davis is. But I'm going to ask you to flip to the defensive backs. I'm going to ask you to flip the cornerback.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Yeah, let's do it, baby.
I think that this could be the area that the Jets kind of leak.
Okay.
And he's right there, and that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go Cam Hart from Notre Dame.
Yeah. Okay.
Long, lengthy, skilled in both man and zone. Can come up and hit. He's a guy who eventually down the road, I think, could be one of those cornerbacks that starts his career, first 5-6 years a corner and then develops into one of the best free safeties in the league. He's got ball skills, leader, captain, the whole nine. He's a guy I fell in love with during this process. I think he would be ideal for the Jets. I think this is an area where he could go. And I also think this is an area that Joe Douglas is going to address. So Cam Hart's my pick here, Paul.
Beautiful. My dad will appreciate that as a diehard Notre Dame fan. And I love that you draft with the plan. You just explained how you foresee him, how you're adding him to the team, where he can evolve. I mean, that's beautiful. That's what we want to see. So, Cam Hard, you are a New York Jet, baby. Also, as I see this on PFF, as it's giving us our remaining selections, it is giving us all the projected comp picks, it appears. Again, that won't be official until another month. We should get that from the NFL right around free agency. So it's giving it to us right now. So we will have those bonus picks to make here. All right. I love it. So we filled some offensive holes, some defensive holes. So go back to some of those other positions we were talking about.
Yeah, so we're going to move forward with this, but I am going to point out that PFF, for some reason, I completely forgot to tell you this before we started the stream.
Yeah.
PFF doesn't have we have 2 4th rounders. We have Denver's 4th rounder. They have ours from the Jacob Martin trade. So we actually have
the 5th, right? Yeah, because we moved up around.
Yeah, so they didn't. You have to kind of force that in the beginning, but they didn't. So we'll just move. That's okay. We'll move on.
Okay.
Listen, I'm looking at this board here, and I told you I'd probably go to the interior offensive line. I love Braylon Allen. If he was here on the board, I think he's the perfect. He's an AJ Dillon clone, a big guy, gonna get you some. It's physical runner inside the tackles, not gonna dazzle you with jump cuts and
a Wisconsin boy.
Yeah. However, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't think he's gonna be here in the 5th round.
Okay, fair enough. Again, I appreciate that. Yeah. That means a lot to me. So yes, I prefer the honesty there. So okay.
Yeah, I'd go to the interior of the offensive line here, Paul.
Okay. Yep. Sure.
I just want to peek. I want to peek and see what happens.
Of course. Here we are. Oh wow, a lot of Michigan boys immediately available.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm just if you could scroll down, I just want to see some names here. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably going to hold off on there.
Okay. Different positional group.
Yeah, go back to that defensive interior if you don't mind.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. You slap me around. I'm your scout. I'm your slap around scout. You tell me what I'm doing, baby. Ooh, Auburn boys. Wow, we're getting a lot of consistency here on some of these. Okay.
Yeah, and these are still Marcus Harrison. Oh, there he is. There's my guy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna maybe actually even be a little bit early for him, but no, let's do it. Let's go ahead and take the 6'5", 315-pound Keith Randolph off the board. Again, I'm looking for a guy that can come in. I'm looking for a guy that can come in, and this is probably going to be the range for him. He's a little bit early, he's well built. He's got tons of muscle on his frame. One of those, one of those freaks list guys. He's long, he's strong. He keeps his feet moving. He's kind of always, he's got a motor that doesn't end. The size gives him versatility. You can play him in a 1 tech. You can even play him in certain situations in 3, or even as a big end in like a la Michael Clemens in certain situations.
Interesting.
Yeah, listen, he's got some development to do. He's not going to really, dazzle you with a bevy of pass rush moves, but I don't think that the Jets at this point in the 5th round are looking for anything like that. They're not looking for their next Quinn Williams. They're looking for their next Al Harris replacement, right?
Interesting, yes.
And he could, he could fill that role. He could be a guy that
Al Woods. Al Harris is the former longtime Green Bay Packer.
I must need another hour or 2 of sleep. I'm getting all the last names wrong. Al Woods replacement. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a guy that's got some development, but he checks all the measurables. Like I said, if he comes in and he's a rotational piece and he plays first and second down for year 1 while he gets a little bit bigger, gets a little bit stronger, learns maybe some pass rush or pass counter moves, I'm fine with it. But at this point, that's the guy I'm going to take.
Okay, now let's go. Where are we going now on the positional? We're now on the 6th round.
You don't have to move right here. We're going to take right off the top of the board, Paul.
Yeah.
Running back from New Hampshire, Dylan Laube. If you don't know about Dylan, Paul, he's a guy that I suggest that you poke into. They were calling him. Listen, they were calling him like the dollar store CMC down at the Senior Bowl. He's a Long Island boy. Grew up on the island. Small school kid, obviously. Over 2,000 or over 1,000 yards. I'm sorry, over 2,000 yards combined for
Mhm.
2 consecutive years, rushing, receiving,
Wow.
100 receptions out of the backfield, 100 receptions out of the backfield, 2 years in a row. Actually, last year I think he had 88 and 112 or something like that. Just a
Mhm.
true testament to what a dual threat running back is. He can run, he can give you the tough yards inside and outside, but also can line up and affect the game from the pass out of the backfield. He can line up in the slot. He can line up wide. They had him doing that. He was so good out of the backfield. Nobody could cover him in the drills, the linebackers and safeties. They had him line up with the wide receivers and was being covered by the cornerbacks. Dylan Laube
Wow.
is, and this is the area where he's going to go. To me, I think he's a guy that really probably made a lot of money for himself, from going from that, undrafted free agent status to, 4th, 5th round draft status.
Well, phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's good for the kid. Personally, I'm probably going veteran backup there.
Well, you could still do that. You could. You could still,
yeah. Well, that's a good
still
point.
do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's still that path. I'll ask you this. I don't know if this is the proper time where we have 3 picks left in this PFF simulation again. We'll correct that for next time to make sure they got their picks right. But do you want a developmental backup quarterback? Is that like on your hit list heading into the draft at some point, depending if the value hits? Is that on your list of things?
It's not on my it's not on my needs, because
Okay.
I really think that the Jets are gonna pay attention to the free agent quarterback. I don't think they're gonna I don't think Joe Douglas is going to make the same mistake twice. I think he's gonna have a veteran here. So at that point, with limited draft capital, I don't think we need to take that future or late round draft pick.
And just to clarify, I think people are talking about a QB3. Of course, a veteran as QB2, but a dart throw is QB3. But okay, what position then should we be looking at here?
Listen, you can go along the defensive interior. You can go along the offensive interior. I saw a guy there that that to me is you go first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
just,
we have
we'll go. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say if you scroll down the interior offensive lineman.
Yep. Let me go back there. Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought there was someone that stood out BPA, but here we are, interior offensive line. Yep. Okay.
So there's those 4 names right there, right at the top. I think this is a good range for all these guys.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to probably take. Do I want? See, I think Kingsley Egunkwan had the best Senior Bowl. I thought he was
kid out of Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought he was the guy that stood out the most out of all these 4. But I probably think the highest ceiling out of all of them is the kid from Oklahoma, Rain. He's a center. He's big enough. He's 6'4", 315 pounds. He's big enough that he can play guard. I don't remember off the top of my head, Paul, if he did that at all at the Senior Bowl or if he just took snaps. But like I said, good movement, good solid base. There's, nothing very flashy to me. He is,
meat and potatoes. Okay.
He's meat and potatoes. He's a good piece of depth that can, possibly cover all 3 interior offensive positions.
Oh, I love that.
Very, very good athlete, fits a scheme. And listen, in a pinch, could he start at center and you move Tippmann out to guard if that whole scenario isn't fixed during free agency? Absolutely. So,
wow, I love that.
To speed some stuff up, I'm going to go ahead and take Raheem. He's young. He just turned 20. He'll be 23 during the season. Like I said, he's very technically sound. I think he's a good player. And this is the range where he's going to go, but I would have been happy with any of those 4 or 5. I have them all kind of relatively in the same tier.
Yeah, and I don't hate, again, the dart throw. Give me a Trey Smith. Give me a dart throw late in the draft on the offensive side of the football just to see potentially what can happen. All right. We ended up going with Cam Hart, so we did go corner. Any other positions? What other? We have 2 picks left, both in the 7th round. Where's the next position?
Listen, at this point, I'm probably taking BPA. I mean, these are the last 2 packs and drafts in the... And right off the top of the board, I would absolutely jump for Nathaniel Watson. I know this seems a lot of people might seem this is too defensive heavy for you, but listen, Boobie Watson is my 6th rated linebacker in this class. Absolute physical specimen, Paul. Probably a little bit too big for your typical Joe Douglas lineman at 6'2", 245. But when I tell you that this guy always has his nose on the ball through, I think he was the linebacker of the year in the SEC. He can blitz from the middle, just solid, good finisher. Only a 6% career missed tackle rate. Again, he understands. He was a green dot guy all throughout the Senior Bowl. Won his team's best linebacker there. So he's intelligent. Just a big physical presence. Again, not the guy that I want to line up against Chris McCaffrey one-on-one in pass coverage, but that wouldn't be really what his job was what his role would be, especially in the Jets defense. I liken him to an eventual replacement, to play next to Streaming Sherwood behind CJ Mosley.
Interesting.
So he can just find, he can just open up, find that zone, settle in it fine. But he's going to be a dominant force, both versus the run as a tackler and in the backfield, because you can now use him in certain blitz and stunt packages to peel off the edge, or those hero blitzes where you want to bring zero coverage, bring the house. Nathaniel Watson's my pick here.
Okay, Watson, my good man. All right,
sir.
I love it. Okay, and then Mr. Irrelevant for the first time in Jets franchise history. There we go.
Yeah.
The last pick of the draft. Why
don't you go ahead here and look at the quarterback position? If there's one guy there,
okay.
I'm gonna probably take a peek.
Okay.
Let's see if he's there.
Well, the only two they have listed, Devin Leary and Keaton Slovis.
Yeah. And listen, Keaton Slovis, for argument, I'm going to go ahead and take Keaton Slovis. Not a fan.
Another BYU kid. Nice.
Not a fan. Well, listen, he's been all over the place. He started at USC.
That's true, right.
Transferred to Pitt, went to BYU this year. He's going to be my pick here. All right.
Okay.
He's your kind of developmental quarterback. I don't really care for Slovis's game all that much. I don't know if he's got the arm strength to really hang in the NFL. The reason why I picked him is because I know that the Jets talked to him numerous times down at the Shrine Bowl. He was one of the guys that got a few different interviews with the Jets. So the Jets were hot to trot on Keaton Slovis. So there's our draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there's our draft. So, yeah, to your point, again, they have two forced because they moved up with that Jacob Martin trade. So they switched out in their future, which is now our present, their fifth for the Broncos' fourth to jump out. So we would be a little higher on this pick. So we'd have a little bit more wiggle room from that perspective. Plus, like I said, they get the comp picks that are projected. They already get them in this draft. Again, we won't know that for another month officially, whether or not they will get the 3 projected 7th-round comp picks they're expected to get. So seeing this haul, a final thought here as we wrap up the show here, Dom, are you satisfied with these results?
Listen, people, you got to remember also, this is a mock draft done in February, done without free agency, done. So,
of course.
So all I did is try to diversify the picks here, guys. You know, I took areas of needs that I thought and plugged in the guys that I thought were best suited. So listen, if you told me I started a draft with Olaf Shanu, Brendan Rice, and Cam Hart, sign me up. The rest of it's all filler. But but in that sense, we got some defensive line depth, we got some running back depth, we got some interior depth, we got some linebacker depth, and we took a dart throw on a quarterback. So to me, all is well.
Yes, and that's, again, where I'm at. I like doing these because these will evolve. This mock draft today will be far different, obviously, than the free agency because we should have some answers to some pressing questions which will change or hone in on some of the positions specifically we'll attack throughout the entire draft. So I love it. Dom C., a longer episode, but much appreciated for the 7-round deep dive. Give everybody a quick plug on what you have cooking on Project Prospector YouTube channel.
Yeah, so got a bunch of stuff happening on the Project Prospect channel. I'm going through a 7-round mock draft series where I'm going through all teams 1 through 32 and gonna break them down. Started with the Jets. If you haven't checked out that video, it's already up there. The next is I'm gonna go through the AFC East, so I'm gonna do the Bills, Patriots, and Dolphins in that order. And I also do another draft show on Talking Jets Monday nights, 8 p.m. With Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7. He and I will be chopping it up tonight, 8 p.m., talking about 5 prospects that are flying under the radar for the Jets. Maybe you'll see some of these names, maybe not.
Okay, I love it, and hopefully, for future reference, those mock draft machines work out a little better. I remember some of the machine not working. It had to have a little bit more oil in some of the cogs, I guess, for that shish kebab to work. But fantastic work, Dom. Appreciate you, and we're looking forward to catching up next week, and we got some stuff cooking.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Paul. Thank you, chat.
All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning on Boy Green Daily. Take care.